Ah, look who's still standing. Ah, welcome back, you beautiful architects of your own resurrection. You silent storms that refuse to break. You souls who took every betrayal like a baptism and came out glowing. Welcome back to the only place that tells you what the universe has been screaming in their ears while they pretended not to hear it. You see, something interesting happened, didn't it? Something you didn't have to lift a finger for, something you didn't have to beg for, something you didn't have to force. They chose sides. Yeah, they made their little alliance, picked their team, stood shoulder to shoulder with the very person who tried to destroy you, and they smiled while doing it. They laughed at your pain, co-signed your enemy's lies, validated every twisted narrative, and then had the audacity to act like they were neutral, like they were just keeping the peace, like they weren't actively participating in your assassination. But here's the part they didn't calculate. Here's the variable they left out of their cute little equation. Here's the force they forgot existed. The universe doesn't forget. Cosmic law doesn't take vacations. Spiritual mathematics doesn't round down for convenience. And now, oh now, you're watching something unfold that no amount of money, no amount of fake apologies, no amount of backtracking can stop. Their lives are falling apart. Not in some vague, maybe, someday kind of way. No, we're talking catastrophic structural collapse. We're talking relationships detonating, finances evaporating, mental health spiraling, opportunities vanishing, respect crumbling, and a silence so loud it's deafening because nobody wants to be near them anymore. You didn't curse them, you didn't hex them, you didn't even speak their name with malice. You just existed in your truth, kept walking forward, kept your head up, and let the universe do what it does best. Balance the scales with brutal precision. They thought siding with your enemy was strategic, didn't they? They thought it was the safe bet, the winning team, the path of least resistance. They looked at you isolated, struggling, fighting alone, and they calculated that you were the losing side. They saw your enemy with their charm, their network, their resources, their convincing lies, and they thought that's where the power lives. So they chose, consciously, deliberately, cruelly. They chose to believe the smear campaign, chose to ignore your character, chose to abandon you when you needed solidarity the most, chose to laugh with the person who was actively destroying you. And they did it with such confidence, such arrogance, such certainty that they were making the smart move. They forgot one tiny detail, though. They forgot that the universe has a ledger, and every single choice gets recorded. Every betrayal gets time-stamped. Every moment of cowardice gets filed. And the bill always comes due. Let me tell you what's happening to them right now, in real time, while you're healing, while you're growing, while you're becoming something they'll never comprehend. Their relationships are imploding, not because of anything you did, but because betrayal is a frequency, and once you operate on it, it attracts more betrayal. The same people they sided with are now turning on them. Shocking, right? The person who lied about you is now lying about them. The person who manipulated you is now manipulating them. They're experiencing firsthand what they watched happen to you. Except this time, there's no one to warn them, no one to protect them, because they burned that bridge when they chose wrong. Their finances are taking hits they can't explain. Opportunities they were sure about, suddenly falling through. Promotions vanishing. Business deals collapsing. Money flowing out faster than it comes in. And they're confused. They're panicking. They're asking, why is this happening to me? Never once connecting it to the fact that they celebrated your downfall. Their mental peace is gone, replaced by anxiety they can't shake, guilt they can't suppress, paranoia they can't medicate away. They're losing sleep, losing focus, losing the plot entirely because somewhere deep in their soul they know they chose wrong. They know they backed the wrong horse. They know they participated in something that violated cosmic law. And now they're paying in ways that hit deeper than money, deeper than status. They're paying in peace, in joy, in the ability to look at themselves without flinching. Their reputation is quietly crumbling. Not loud, not public, but in whispers, in group chats they're not in invitations that stop coming, in respect that slowly evaporates. People are starting to see them differently, starting to sense something off about them, starting to distance themselves without even knowing why. It's like the universe is broadcasting a frequency that says, this one is marked, this one chose wrong, this one cannot be trusted, and people are picking up on it subconsciously. You want to know the sickest part? You're not even thinking about them anymore. You're not obsessing, not plotting revenge, not losing sleep over their betrayal. You've moved on, you've healed, you've elevated to a frequency where they don't even register as a blip on your radar anymore. But they're thinking about you constantly, compulsively, obsessively. They're checking your page, watching your moves, monitoring your growth. And every time they see you thriving, it cuts deeper because they realize they were wrong about you. They realize you weren't the problem. They realize they hitched their wagon to a sinking ship, and now they're drowning. They're seeing you unbothered, glowing, successful, surrounded by real ones, and it's destroying them from the inside because they chose the opposite. They chose chaos. They chose lies. They chose temporary comfort over lasting integrity. And now they're reaping exactly what they sowed. Cosmic justice isn't some mystical fairy tale. It's not some abstract concept that maybe happens if you're lucky. It's a law as real as gravity, as inevitable as entropy, as precise as mathematics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And when you choose to side with someone's destroyer, when you participate in someone's character assassination, when you validate lies and cruelty, the universe registers that frequency and matches it back to you multiplied. They thought they were getting away with it because the consequences weren't immediate, because life went on normally for a while, because you didn't retaliate publicly. But cosmic justice doesn't operate on human timelines. It operates on precision timing designed for maximum impact. It waits until they feel safe, until they think they got away with it, until they've built something they value, and then it dismantles everything systematically, thoroughly, mercilessly. You see, the universe didn't protect them because they violated a fundamental spiritual law. They turned their back on truth to side with lies. They abandoned integrity to embrace convenience. They chose cruelty over compassion. And in that moment they marked themselves, not by you, not by any external force, but by their own choice, by their own frequency, by their own alignment with destruction. And now that same destruction is visiting them, sitting at their table, sleeping in their bed, whispering in their ear at 3 a.m. when they can't sleep. They're experiencing firsthand what happens when you bet against someone who has truth on their side, when you laugh at someone who has the universe as their advocate, when you mock someone who walks in alignment even when it costs them everything. You didn't need to defend yourself. You didn't need to prove anything. You didn't need to fight back. You just needed to stand in your truth and let cosmic law handle the rest. They're watching their world crumble in slow motion, and they can't stop it. Because you can't fight the universe. You can't negotiate with cosmic law. You can't charm your way out of spiritual consequences. They tried, though. Oh, they tried. They tried to reverse it. Tried to apologize quietly. Tried to backtrack. Tried to act like they were always on your side. But it's too late. The frequency has been set. The choice has been made. The record has been filed. They sealed their fate the moment they sided with your enemy. The moment they laughed at your pain. The moment they validated lies they knew were lies. And now they're learning a lesson that will haunt them for the rest of their lives. When you side with someone's destroyer, you become complicit in that destruction. And the universe treats accomplices the same way it treats architects. No mercy, no exceptions, no escape. Let's talk about what they're really losing, though. Because it's not just material things. It's not just relationships or money or opportunities. They're losing something far more valuable. They're losing their integrity, their self-respect, their ability to trust their own judgment. Every time they look in the mirror, they see someone who chose wrong, someone who betrayed innocence, someone who laughed with the villain. And that's a stain that doesn't wash off, a weight that doesn't lift, a mark that doesn't fade. They thought they were playing it smart, but they were actually gambling with their soul, and now they're bankrupt in ways money can't fix. They're losing peace, losing joy, losing the ability to experience genuine connection because they know deep down they're capable of betrayal. They know they'll abandon people when it's convenient. They know their loyalty is conditional and shallow. People around them are starting to sense it too, starting to keep their distance, starting to build walls, because energy doesn't lie and betrayal has a smell. They can't figure out why their friendships feel hollow now, why conversations feel forced, why nobody trusts them with real vulnerability anymore. It's because everyone can sense it. Everyone can feel that they're not safe, that they'll switch sides when the wind changes, that they'll throw anyone under the bus if it benefits them. And now they're isolated, ironically, ending up exactly where they left you. Except when you were isolated, you were being refined, you were being protected, you were being prepared for elevation. Their isolation is different. It's consequence, it's rejection. It's the universe saying, you don't get to stand in the crowd anymore because you violated trust on a cosmic level. Their enemy, the one they sided with, is watching all this too, and guess what? They're distancing themselves from them now. Because users don't respect the people they use. Manipulators don't value the people they manipulate. And liars don't trust the people who believe their lies. Your enemy looked at them and saw exactly what they are. Weak, easily swayed, disloyal, opportunistic, and now that they've served their purpose, they're being discarded like trash. Poetic, isn't it? They betrayed you to align with someone who has now betrayed them. They chose the liar over the truth teller, and now they're experiencing what lies feel like when they're pointed in their direction. They chose the manipulator over the authentic, and now they're being manipulated in ways they can't even detect. They chose temporary alliance over lasting integrity, and now they have neither the alliance nor the integrity. You want to know what your role in all this was? Nothing. You didn't orchestrate their downfall. You didn't pray for their destruction. You didn't spend nights plotting revenge. You did something far more powerful. You healed. You grew. You elevated. You maintained your integrity even when it cost you relationships. You stayed true even when lies seemed more convenient. You stood alone in your truth when crowds gathered around falsehood. And that alignment, that frequency, that commitment to truth is what activated cosmic protection. Not because you're special in some mystical way, but because you aligned yourself with universal law, with truth, with integrity. And the universe protects that alignment fiercely. Anyone who attacks someone walking in truth is essentially attacking truth itself. And truth always defends itself, always balances the scales, always restores order. They're learning right now that you can't cheat spiritual law. You can't manipulate cosmic justice. You can't lie to the universe. They thought they could participate in your destruction and walk away clean. But the universe doesn't work that way. Every betrayal has a receipt. Every laugh at someone's pain has a recording. Every moment of complicity and cruelty has a timestamp. And the bill always comes with interest. They're paying now in relationships that feel empty, in anxiety that won't leave, in opportunities that slip through their fingers, in respect that crumbles quietly, in peace that has completely vanished. And the most brutal part? They know why it's happening. Deep down, they know exactly why their life is falling apart. They know they chose wrong. They know they sided with darkness against light, and that knowledge is eating them alive because they can't undo it. they can't take it back. They can't reverse the frequency they aligned with. Meanwhile, you're over here, glowing, thriving, surrounded by real ones, experiencing opportunities they can't explain, relationships that feel genuine, peace that feels earned. Not because you're luckier than them, not because you're more talented than them, but because you paid your dues in integrity. You stayed aligned when it was hard. You chose truth when lies were easier. And the universe rewards that every single time. They're watching you rise, and it's killing them because they realize they could have been part of your story. They could have stood beside you. They could have witnessed your transformation up close, but they chose to laugh from the sidelines instead. And now they're stuck watching from a distance, excluded from the very elevation they mocked, witnessing the very success they didn't believe in. And it's destroying them because they know they had a chance and they blew it. Cosmic justice doesn't need your participation. It doesn't need your anger. It doesn't need your revenge. It just needs your alignment with truth, your commitment to integrity, your willingness to stand alone if necessary. And once you have that, once you maintain that frequency, regardless of who stands with you or against you, the universe handles the rest with a precision that will take your breath away. You don't need to defend yourself to people who sided with your enemy. You don't need to explain yourself to people who believed lies about you. You don't need to convince people who chose to misunderstand you. You just need to keep walking, keep growing, keep aligning with truth, and watch how life handles the people who chose wrong. They're falling apart right now, and it's not your fault. It's not your curse. It's not your revenge. It's cosmic law, operating exactly as it's designed to operate. They chose to align with destruction, so destruction came to visit them. They chose to laugh at pain, so pain came to educate them. They chose to side with lies, so lies turned on them. They chose to abandon someone walking in truth, so truth abandoned them. Simple mathematics, spiritual physics, universal law, doing what it always does. Balancing scales, restoring order, protecting those who protect truth. And you didn't have to lift a finger. You didn't have to say a word. You didn't have to do anything except stand in your truth and let the universe be your advocate, your defender, your warrior. You see, when you align with truth, when you maintain integrity regardless of cost, when you stand in authenticity even when it isolates you, you're not standing alone. You're standing with every law that governs existence, every force that maintains balance, every frequency that protects order. And those forces don't play, they don't negotiate, they don't show mercy to those who violate their principles. They watched what happened to you. They recorded every laugh, every betrayal, every moment those people sided with your enemy. And now they're executing justice with a precision that seems almost orchestrated. Their life falling apart isn't random. It's not coincidence. It's not just bad luck. It's the universe saying you chose wrong, and here's your education. Here's your reminder that cosmic law exists. Here's your proof that you can't side against truth without consequences. And the beauty of it all? You're not even celebrating their downfall. You're not rubbing it in, not posting about it, not gossiping about their struggles, because you've evolved past that frequency. You've grown beyond the need for revenge. You've elevated to a place where their consequences are just noise in the background of your ascension. You're too busy building, too busy healing, too busy becoming the version of yourself that makes their betrayal look like the best thing that ever happened to you. Because in a way it was. Their betrayal forced you to stand alone and discover you didn't need them. Their abandonment forced you to find strength you didn't know you had. Their choice to side with your enemy forced you to become your own army. And now you're unstoppable, untouchable, unbreakable, while they're barely holding themselves together. They thought they were making a power move when they sided with your enemy, but they were actually signing their own collapse order. They thought they were joining the winning team, but they were actually boarding a sinking ship. They thought they were choosing safety, but they were actually choosing spiritual bankruptcy. And now they're paying the price while you're collecting the reward for staying true, for standing alone, for maintaining integrity when it would have been easier to compromise. Cosmic justice is real, not as some abstract concept, not as some maybe someday possibility, but as an active force operating in real time, balancing scales with mathematical precision, restoring order with ruthless efficiency, protecting those who align with truth with fierce devotion. So to everyone watching who sided with your enemy, who laughed at your pain, who believed lies about you, who abandoned you when you needed them, who chose convenience over integrity, who picked the wrong side because it seemed easier, look around. Look at your life right now. Look at what's crumbling. Look at what's collapsing. Look at what's falling apart in ways you can't explain, in ways you can't stop, in ways you can't reverse. That's not coincidence. That's not bad luck. That's not random chaos. That's cosmic justice. That's universal law. That's spiritual mathematics operating exactly as designed. You chose to side against someone walking in truth, and now truth has chosen to step away from you, and without truth protecting you, everything false in your life is being exposed, everything shallow is being drained, everything built on lies is being demolished. Meanwhile, the person you sided against, the one you laughed at, the one you abandoned, the one you betrayed, they're over there, glowing, thriving, ascending, surrounded by real ones, protected by forces you can't see, elevated by alignment you can't fake. And every time you check on them, every time you watch their story, every time you scroll past their success, it reminds you that you chose wrong, that you sided with destruction against creation, that you aligned with lies against truth, that you picked the losing side despite all your calculations. And that knowledge, that awareness, that realization is eating you alive, isn't it? Because you can't undo it. You can't take it back. You can't reverse the frequency you chose. You can't unalign from the destruction you sided with. Cosmic justice doesn't forget, doesn't forgive easily, doesn't offer second chances to those who knowingly chose wrong. It operates on a simple principle. You reap what you sow, you receive the frequency you emit, you experience the consequences of your choices. And you chose to side with someone's destroyer, chose to participate in someone's assassination, chose to laugh at someone's pain, chose to validate lies you knew were lies. And now, the universe is showing you what that choice costs, what that alignment attracts, what that frequency manifests. Your life falling apart isn't punishment from the person you betrayed. It's education from the universe you violated. It's consequence from cosmic law you ignored. It's justice from spiritual principles you thought you could escape. Welcome back, you beautiful chaos architects. The ones who called their shot in the darkness and watched the world scramble to pretend they saw it coming. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That moment, months ago, maybe longer, when you whispered to yourself, to your journal, to the void itself, that this was going to happen. You knew. You felt it in your bones before the evidence arrived. You predicted your own resurrection while they were still planning your funeral. And now that you've won, now that reality bent itself around your vision, suddenly everyone's got amnesia. Suddenly they're all nodding like they knew all along, rewriting their own memories in real time, editing their mental transcripts to make it look like they were always on your side. But you remember, don't you? You remember the silence when you spoke your vision out loud. You remember the patronizing smiles, the concerned looks, the people who changed the subject real quick because your confidence made them uncomfortable. You remember typing out your predictions, your goals, your inevitable victory, and watching the read receipts pile up with 0 responses. They saw it. They read every word. They just didn't believe a single syllable. Here's what's hilarious about human nature. People can't stand being wrong, but they especially can't stand being wrong about you. So instead of admitting they doubted you, instead of owning their lack of vision, they perform this beautiful mental gymnastics routine. where they convince themselves they always believed. They're rewriting history right in front of your face, acting like your win was obvious, like they saw it coming from a mile away. But you've got the screenshots, don't you? You've got the memories burned into your consciousness. Every dismissive comment, every skeptical eyebrow raise, every person who went radio silent when you shared your vision, every fake supporter who vanished the moment things got difficult. You cataloged it all, not because you're bitter, but because you knew this day would come. You knew the moment you started winning, they'd all come crawling back with revised histories and selective amnesia. They're walking around now, acting like they were always in your corner, always knew you had it in you, always believed you'd make it. Meanwhile, you were building this empire in complete isolation while they laughed behind closed doors. Let's talk about that prediction, that moment of clarity when you saw your future before it materialized. That wasn't luck. That wasn't positive thinking. That wasn't manifestation in some mystical sense. That was you reading the code of reality, understanding the patterns, seeing the trajectory that nobody else could perceive because they were too busy living in the present moment like sheep. You understood something fundamental about cause and effect, about momentum, about the inevitability of effort meeting opportunity. You weren't guessing. You were calculating. You weren't hoping. You were knowing. And that knowing, that bone-deep certainty despite zero external validation, that's what separated you from everyone else. While they needed permission from the universe, you gave yourself authorization. While they waited for signs, you became the sign. While they looked for proof before believing, you believed so hard you created the proof. That's not normal. That's not how most people operate. Most people need the win first. Then they'll believe in themselves afterward. But you? You believed in the win when it was still invisible, when it was still just electrical signals in your brain, when it existed nowhere except in your vision. They called it delusional, didn't they? Oh, they didn't say it directly, because they're too cowardly for honesty. But you felt it in their energy, heard it in their silence, saw it in the way they avoided eye contact when you talked about your future. Delusional, unrealistic, too confident, setting yourself up for disappointment. They had 100 polite ways to tell you that you were reaching too far, dreaming too big, existing too loudly. And you know what the sick part is? Some of them genuinely thought they were protecting you from disappointment. They thought their doubt was kindness, their low expectations were mercy, their discouragement was wisdom. They couldn't conceive of your success, so they tried to lower your expectations to match their limited imagination. But you didn't need their protection. You didn't need their realistic perspective. You needed them to get out of your way, and eventually, you just stopped inviting them into your mental space altogether. You stopped sharing your vision with people who couldn't see past their own limitations. You went silent, not because you stopped believing, but because you realized belief doesn't require an audience. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The moment you stopped seeking validation, the moment you stopped trying to convince anyone, the moment you just focused on the work in complete silence, that's when the universe started moving pieces around behind the scenes. You weren't looking for signs because you were too busy building. You weren't checking for support because you were too deep in execution mode. You weren't worried about who believed in you because you were being sustained by something far more powerful than external validation. You had certainty, not confidence, not hope, not optimism. Certainty, the kind that doesn't waver when obstacles appear, because obstacles were already calculated into the prediction. You knew this wasn't going to be easy. You never thought it would be smooth. You just knew that regardless of the difficulty, regardless of the setbacks, regardless of how many times you had to adjust the strategy, the outcome was inevitable. That level of knowing, that's what they couldn't understand. They're used to confidence that crumbles under pressure. They're familiar with belief that evaporates when tested. But your knowing, that stayed solid through everything. Remember those months of silence? Those weeks where you barely posted, barely spoke, barely showed your face to the world? They thought you gave up. They thought you were hiding in shame, nursing your wounds. coming to terms with the reality that maybe you weren't as special as you thought. Some of them probably felt relieved. Finally, they thought, finally this person is learning humility, learning their place, learning that dreams don't always come true. They checked your page expecting to find evidence of your decline, some signal that you were spiraling, some indication that reality had humbled you, but they found nothing, just silence. Strategic, intentional, powerful silence. Because you weren't hiding, you were hatching, you weren't defeated, you were in the lab, you weren't broken. You were building the very thing you predicted months ago, piece by piece, in complete darkness, with nobody watching, nobody cheering, nobody validating a single step. That's the difference between you and them. They need applause at every milestone. You built an empire in silence and only revealed it when it was finished. And then it happened. The win arrived exactly like you said it would. Maybe not on the exact timeline you predicted, maybe not in the exact form you envisioned, but the essence of it, the core of your prediction, manifested in reality. Opportunities opened, doors swung wide, resources appeared, people started noticing, your name started traveling. Suddenly you're getting messages, calls, offers, recognition. Suddenly people want to collaborate, want to learn from you, want to be associated with your success. And the most fascinating part? They're all acting like this is surprising to them but not shocking. Like they had a feeling you'd pull it off. Like they always knew you had something special. Like they were rooting for you the whole time. And you're standing there watching this performance, this mass gaslighting event, this collective rewriting of history, and you can't help but laugh. Because you remember. You remember who showed up in the darkness. You remember who stayed silent when you needed support. You remember who dismissed your vision when it was just words on a screen. They're crawling back now with their revised narratives. People who wouldn't respond to your messages 6 months ago are now in your comments acting like old friends. People who left you on red when you shared your dreams are now sharing your wins like they were there from the beginning. People who talked about you behind your back are now talking about you in public with nothing but praise. And they've convinced themselves this isn't hypocrisy. They've genuinely rewritten their own memories to erase their doubt, to delete their dismissiveness, to forget their betrayal. Human psychology is wild like that. People will literally gaslight themselves to avoid the discomfort of being wrong about you. They'll create false memories of being supportive. They'll recall conversations that never happened where they encouraged you. They'll remember believing in you when the reality is they didn't think about you at all. Because to admit they doubted you means admitting their judgment was flawed, and that's too painful. So instead, they just change the story. But you're not bitter about it, are you? You're not angry, you're not resentful, you're just aware. Painfully, clearly, permanently aware of who people really are when your success isn't guaranteed. You learned an invaluable lesson in those months of doubt and silence. You learned that most people's support is conditional on your success being visible and undeniable. They'll cheer for you at the finish line, but they won't train with you in the darkness. They'll celebrate your wins, but they won't believe in your predictions. They'll claim you as their inspiration once you've made it, but they'll forget you exist when you're still building. And that's not evil. That's not malicious. That's just human nature. Most people aren't brave enough to believe in invisible victories. Most people need proof before they invest their faith. Most people are followers, waiting to see which direction the crowd moves before they commit. And you were never most people. You were the one walking in a direction nobody else could see, following a map nobody else could read, pursuing a destination nobody else believed existed. The beautiful part about all this rewriting of history is that you don't need to call anyone out. You don't need to pull up old messages and expose who doubted you. You don't need to create a presentation showing who left you on red when you shared your dreams. You don't need receipts because your win is the receipt. Your success is the evidence. Your reality is the proof. They can rewrite history all they want, but you know the truth. You know who was real. You know who showed up. You know who believed when belief was expensive. And more importantly, you know who you are. You're the person who predicted their own victory and then made it happen through pure will, work, and unwavering knowing. That's not something that can be taken from you. That's not something they can revise or reframe. That's your story, your journey, your triumph. Let them rewrite their role in it. Let them pretend they were always believers. Let them convince themselves they saw it coming. Because at the end of the day, their version of history doesn't change your reality. Here's what they're really afraid of. They're not afraid that you won. Success stories happen all the time. They're afraid that you predicted it. They're afraid that you had vision when they had doubt. They're afraid that you operated on a frequency they couldn't detect. They're afraid that you possess something they don't have, something they can't learn, something they can't replicate. The ability to see the invisible. The ability to believe in the impossible. The ability to know your future before it arrives. That's what terrifies them. Because if you can do that, if you can predict your own victory and then manifest it through sheer force of will and execution, then what else are you capable of? What other futures have you already seen that haven't materialized yet? What other predictions have you made that they're going to witness? They're rewriting the past because they're terrified of your future. They want to align themselves with you now, before your next prediction comes true, before your next vision materializes, before your next impossible thing becomes undeniable reality. Let's talk about that feeling you had months ago when you made the prediction. Remember it? That surge of knowing that came from somewhere deeper than logic, somewhere beyond rational thought. It wasn't hope. Hope has uncertainty baked into it. It wasn't confidence. Confidence can be shaken. It was knowing. Pure, absolute, unshakable knowing. You weren't trying to convince yourself. You weren't pumping yourself up. You were simply aware of a future that already existed in potential form, and you were just acknowledging it out loud. That's a different frequency than most people operate on. Most people predict based on past evidence. They look at their history and project forward based on patterns. But you predicted based on something else entirely. You predicted based on who you were becoming, not who you had been. You predicted based on the work you were about to put in, not the work you had already done. You predicted based on a version of yourself that didn't exist yet, but was inevitable. That's next level. That's beyond manifestation. That's creation, speaking itself into existence through you. And now that it's happened, now that your prediction proved accurate, you've unlocked something in yourself that can never be taken away. You've proven to yourself that you can see the future. Not in some mystical sense, but in the sense that you understand cause and effect on a deeper level than most. You understand that reality is more malleable than people think. You understand that the future isn't fixed, but it's also not random. It responds to intention, to vision, to unwavering knowing, backed by relentless action. Most people will never understand this. They'll attribute your success to luck, timing, privilege, circumstances. They need to believe that. They need external factors to explain your win because the alternative is too uncomfortable. The alternative is that you simply saw something they couldn't see and then made it real through pure will. That would mean they're limited not by circumstances but by vision. That would mean their failures aren't because the world is unfair, but because they lack the courage to predict their own victories. That's too heavy for them to carry, so they'll rewrite history instead. Watch what happens next. Watch how they start treating you now that you've won. Suddenly your opinions matter. Suddenly your advice is valuable. Suddenly your perspective is insightful. It's the same perspective you've always had. You're the same person who predicted this win months ago. But now that the win is visible, now that success has validated your vision, suddenly they're listening. Suddenly they want to know how you did it. Suddenly they want to learn your methods. And here's where you have to be careful. Because these people, these history rewriters, these fair weather believers, they want the result without the journey. They want your victory without your struggle. They want your knowing without your doubt. They want your win without your months of silent grinding in complete isolation. They think you have some secret, some trick, some shortcut. They don't understand that the secret was simply this. You believed your own prediction and then refused to accept any reality that didn't match it. That's it. That's the whole formula. But they can't hear that. They want something more complex, more teachable, more accessible. They want the blueprint without the prerequisite of becoming the kind of person who can predict their own future. So what do you do with all this? How do you navigate this new reality where everyone's pretending they always believed in you? First, you remember. You remember who was real. You remember who showed up when showing up was expensive. You remember who believed when belief required courage. Those people, the real ones, they're your circle now. They're the ones who earned their place in your story. Everyone else? They're just NPCs in the background, extras in your movie, faces in the crowd. They can celebrate your win. They can claim they knew all along. They can rewrite history in their own minds. But they don't get access. They don't get intimacy. They don't get to know the real you, the you that existed before the win, the you that predicted this victory when it was still just a whisper in the darkness. That version of you is reserved for the people who believed in that version, not the people who only showed up once that version proved itself. Second, you keep predicting. You don't stop at this win. This victory was just proof of concept. It was evidence that your predictive ability is real, that your vision is accurate, that your knowing is trustworthy. So what's next? What's the next impossible thing you're going to call into existence? What's the next victory you're going to predict that nobody will believe until it's undeniable? Because here's the thing about people who can see the future. They don't get one prediction right by accident. It's a skill. It's a frequency. It's a way of existing. And now that you've proven it once, now that you've demonstrated that you can predict your own victory and then manifest it, you're operating on a different level entirely. You're not hoping anymore. You're not wishing. You're not even believing in the traditional sense. You're knowing. And knowing, backed by action, backed by persistence, backed by refusal to accept any other reality, that's unstoppable. That's how you build empires. That's how you create legacies. That's how you become the person who didn't just succeed, but predicted their own success and then lived into that prediction until reality had no choice but to conform. Third, you forgive them. Not because they deserve it, not because they've apologized. Most of them don't even realize they're rewriting history. They genuinely believe they always supported you. Their self-deception is so complete, so thorough, that calling them out would be pointless. So you forgive them silently. You let them have their revised narrative. You let them believe they were always believers, not for their sake, but for yours. Because carrying resentment, cataloging betrayals, maintaining detailed records of who doubted you, that's heavy. That's weight you don't need anymore. You're flying now. You're operating at a frequency where petty revenge is beneath you. Let them rewrite history. Let them convince themselves they saw it coming. Let them live in their comfortable delusion. Meanwhile, you'll be busy predicting and manifesting your next impossible victory. And the cycle will repeat. They'll doubt. You'll predict. You'll win. They'll rewrite. And each time, you'll rise higher, while they remain exactly where they are, convinced they're climbing with you, when really, they're just spectators gasping at your ascent. Finally, you own your story. Don't let their revisionist history become the dominant narrative. You know what really happened. You know who you were in those dark months. You know the doubt you faced, the silence you endured, the isolation you navigated. You know the exact moment you made that prediction, the feeling that accompanied it, the certainty that filled your bones. That's your origin story. That's your foundation. Don't let anyone rewrite it, not even in subtle ways. When people ask how you did it, tell them the truth. Tell them you predicted it when nobody believed. Tell them you worked in silence while they watched and waited for you to fail. Tell them you had to become your own validation because external support was nowhere to be found. Tell them the real story, the uncomfortable story, the story that doesn't paint everyone as supportive characters in your journey, because your real story is more powerful than any revised version. Your real story is proof that you don't need anyone's belief except your own. Your real story is evidence that prediction backed by action creates reality. Third, you forgive them. Not because they deserve it, not because they've apologized. Most of them don't even realize they're rewriting history. They genuinely believe they always supported you. Their self-deception is so complete, so thorough, that calling them out would be pointless. So you forgive them silently. You let them have their revised narrative. You let them believe they were always believers, not for their sake, but for yours. Because carrying resentment, cataloging betrayals, maintaining detailed records of who doubted you, that's heavy. That's weight you don't need anymore. You're flying now. You're operating at a frequency where petty revenge is beneath you. Let them rewrite history. Let them convince themselves they saw it coming. Let them live in their comfortable delusion. Meanwhile, you'll be busy predicting and manifesting your next impossible victory. And the cycle will repeat. They'll doubt. You'll predict. You'll win. They'll rewrite. And each time, you'll rise higher, while they remain exactly where they are, convinced they're climbing with you, when really, they're just spectators gasping at your ascent. Finally, you own your story. Don't let their revisionist history become the dominant narrative. You know what really happened. You know who you were in those dark months. You know the doubt you faced, the silence you endured, the isolation you navigated. You know the exact moment you made that prediction, the feeling that accompanied it, the certainty that filled your bones. That's your origin story, that's your foundation. Don't let anyone rewrite it, not even in subtle ways. When people ask how you did it, tell them the truth. Tell them you predicted it when nobody believed. Tell them you worked in silence while they watched and waited for you to fail. Tell them you had to become your own validation because external support was nowhere to be found. Tell them the real story, the uncomfortable story, the story that doesn't paint everyone as supportive characters in your journey, because your real story is more powerful than any revised version. Your real story is proof that you don't need anyone's belief except your own. Your real story is evidence that prediction backed by action creates reality.